Today's video is brought to you by the Modern Gun School. This is not the other place that thinks that they can take your entire GI Bill and run with it. This is an accredited online university. Whether you just want to learn a few things or you actually want to break into the firearms space, they leave you with options. Check them out at Modern Gun School. Let's get into the video. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. It's great to be here as always. Thank you for tuning in. And today we have a leak out of the Justice Department, out of the Attorney General's office pertaining to the Second Amendment. And this is probably an intentional leak, but a leak is a leak is a leak. We're going to get into the specifics of what is written in this thing, and to give you the really quick and dirty on what it is that it says, it really does two things. One, it reopens a path for felons who have prohibited status that are not considered a danger to society. Think like did your time for the crime and now you're out on the street type thing. People who like wrote bad checks and stuff like that. Those folks are prohibited persons. So remember your 4473, your firearms transaction record, all those boxes that you say no to. Yeah, they fall in those categories. They can't buy, sell, transfer, possess firearms or ammunition. And this move by the Attorney General's office reopens a path for those people to get their right to defend themselves back, provided that they are not a danger to society, right? And then the second thing that it does is strip the ATF of its authority to participate in this process whatsoever. Definitely good things. However, whenever we look at something like this, it is important to consider the administration's scorecard before we get all cheerleader on them. So while this is a positive, and we're going to get into the specifics of this, let's recap the administration's scoreboard, shall we say. Remember that Donald Trump shows up in the negative in this administration as it pertains to the Second Amendment, because remember, he did that whole thing last time around.
Under your administration, you instructed the Department of Justice and the ATF to ban bump stocks. If elected president again, how would you act not only to defend our Second Amendment rights, but to restore rights that have been taken from us, such as, by example, recently the ATF's ruling on the pistol stabilizing braces?
Yeah, as you know, the bump stocks are actually a very unimportant thing. And NRA, I went with them and they said it doesn't mean anything. Or actually, all they do is teach you how to shoot very inaccurately.
Not very remorseful about that, it seems. And to be completely honest, he is pretty much responsible for all the rest of the stuff that Biden did, because he was the one who opened the door for that sort of thing. Like Obama didn't even go that far outside of his statutory authority, but Trump did, and then Biden showed up and just kind of replicated what he did. So we're only going to give him -1. He probably deserves more than that for that whole debacle, but I'm going to try to be generous on this one as a means to basically show that, hey, we're nowhere close to hopping up and down and doing back handsprings and stuff like that. On the campaign trail, he showed some level of competence with the subject matter of the current administration, being the Biden administration at the time, was going way out of their way to infringe on the Second Amendment rights of American citizens.
Under a Trump administration, all of those Biden disasters get ripped up and torn out. My first week, but maybe my first day in office, okay? Maybe my first.
However, when he got here, that first day, first week came and went by a large margin. It wasn't until several weeks in that we got an executive order that basically directed the Attorney General within 30 days to come back and provide him with a bunch of proposals, which is entirely unnecessary. And even though it didn't actually do anything, I'm going to go ahead and award him a positive. I would also say that between inauguration and issuing of that executive order, I forget exactly when it happened, but the White House Office of Gun Control was closed down. Pam Bondi was allowed to miss that 30-day deadline. And not only did she miss that 30-day deadline, but she asked for an extension, and she missed that one too. But to be fair, she did fire the lead counsel for the ATF. All right, that's about the end of my generosity. Yesterday, I did a video on how the Trump Bondi DOJ said that suppressors are not protected by the Second Amendment, despite the fact that they are in common use and are codified in federal law as firearms for tax purposes. You even have to fill out a firearms transaction record and a transfer record, a Form 4 or a Form 1 for manufacture of a firearm, if you're participating in the NFA process. The Trump Bondi DOJ continues with the forced reset triggers situation. And let's not forget about this, Jim, while we're here.
You want them to take the guns and
When they are
not
committed.
go through 6 months of legal trials and everything else.
Exactly.
Those are the major ones. There are a few other smaller ones that I've kind of left off, like the whole thing with GOA. And also, you could say that, you know, she played a hand in putting Kash Patel in as ATF director. So we're just going to call the rest of them a wash and say that is the count. Well, by my public education math, we're in the hole by 4 points. Let's go to today. Or tomorrow, I suppose. Going into the Federal Register tomorrow, this is an interim final rule that amends the Department of Justice's regulations related to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives by withdrawing effective, moribund regulations regarding how ATF will adjudicate applications for relief from disabilities imposed by certain firearms laws and withdrawing a related delegation. It then goes into how they're going to follow the APA and allow the whole public comment period and all that sort of stuff. You guys have seen that 100 times before at this point in time. Let's continue. Federal law prohibits several categories of persons from possessing in or affecting commerce of any firearm or ammunition. By statute, it also provides that persons who are prohibited from possessing, shipping, and transporting or receiving firearms or ammunition may make application to the Attorney General for relief, and that the Attorney General may grant such relief if it is established to his, or hers, satisfaction that the circumstances regarding the disability and the applicant's record and reputation are such that the applicant will not be likely to act in a manner dangerous to the public safety, and that granting of the relief would not be contrary to the public's interests. Initially, those regulations delegated to the Secretary of Treasury's authority to adjudicate applications to remove disabilities under U.S. Code to Commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service. We all know what happened there. The ATF was born out of the IRS as a tax collection agency. You see where this is going, right? Let's continue. Nonetheless, as noted above, when it passes the HSA, Congress chose to transfer authority to remove individual firearms disabilities from the Secretary of Treasury to the Attorney General. As a result, 18 U.S.C. 925C continues to provide a remedy to remove disabilities from firearms possession for certain individuals, even though ATF has been unable to act on any applications for such relief since 1992 due to the annual appropriations rider. I'm a little bit familiar with this. I actually know a couple attorneys who that is their whole thing. That's what they do for a living, is basically their firm. When somebody who has a firearms disability wants their stuff back, they go to the firm. The firm ends up charging them a whole bunch of money. It's expensive, and they, provided that they are not a violent felon, usually end up getting their firearms disability revoked or rescinded, I suppose is the proper term. But that process, again, is lengthy, it is expensive, and you have to go to an attorney to do it. It's not supposed to happen that way. Under the original intent was that, hey, you did a thing and it was a dumb thing, but you're not really a dangerous person, so you can reapply to have your prohibited person status pulled. And then in a legalese way, it says here that she is going to pull the delegation of authority. So again, the authority is given to the Attorney General to process these applications. The Attorney General delegates that authority to the ATF to process those applications. But currently, because of Congress doing what they're doing, the ATF can't use any of their funds to do that. So she says, well, I revoke the delegation of authority to the ATF and I'm taking it back and I'm not giving it to anybody else. That, I have to say, is fucking brilliant. Let's go to the scoreboard. Not quite there yet. Keep on working, and maybe we'll get there.